Want to give a quick shout out to all of my patrons. Thank you so much for all of the continued support. And I am done. Okay, so I just got done reading The Engineer. This is book 2 of the Last Horizon series by Will Wight. And I want to give you my unedited thoughts upon finishing the book, which was just right now. So I love this one. This is another 5 stars for me. What's turning out to start out the year really nicely. And I've been looking forward to this book for a long time. Actually, not a long time, but since the moment I finished book 1, which was last year. Will Wight is the author of Cradle, which he's, by far, is his most popular work that he's ever done. The Cradle series ended up last year, and then he started up, although I think he came out with this first book before he ended Cradle, but I think it was just a release thing and wanting to get people onto this one before everybody was done with Cradle. But he's moved on. And whereas Cradle was this progression fantasy story, kind of the hallmark for progression fantasy, this one is definitely in the science fiction realm. Although it's kind of like sci fantasy, I'd say. There's a lot of fantasy elements to it, but because, yeah, it's a magician in space. So, yeah, it's definitely both. But yeah, it's a very, very different book than that initial series, but I love it. Now, this is coming from a huge Cradle fan. Now, I'm not the biggest Cradle fan in the world because I felt like the ending of the series, the last 2 books, kind of flubbed it. But I still love the series, and it's still something that I look fondly on, and probably something that I'll end up rereading someday. And I fully recommend to everybody. But I think that both of these 2 books so far is better than anything that I read in Cradle, and that just shows you. And I'm not saying that to diss on anything from Cradle. I'm saying it to say how wonderful this new series is. Now, when I look at this book as compared to the first book, I feel like I maybe like them the same. I feel like this one has a better plot. I feel like it's definitely got a better bad guy to the story, certainly more compelling. The first one's bad guy was this rather intriguing, but not as interesting because it was like like these robots. I think they're robots. How am I forgetting already what they were? But it's like this hive mind kind of thing where it doesn't really have any emotion to it. It's scary, not in the jump scare kind of thing, but definitely very eerie, and felt very terrifying from the power that it had. But this bad guy is just like is an actual character, and it's it's a real person that you actually get to feel and know, and you get the conflicting emotions going on them. So I thought the character development from this bad guy was so much better. It's not quite as action-packed as the first one, which is hard to do because the first one, from the first page, comes out hot. Now, this one was very action-packed, but nothing can really match the pedal to the metal kind of nature of the first one. But this one still had all the charm and all the humor and the fun that the first one had. And so I'm going to end up highly recommending this series to everybody and end up rather disappointed that this series hasn't caught on to the level that I would really have hoped it would have. What I thought was the series was just going to take off so fast because everyone's fresh off Cradle. A lot of people are reading it, but what it looks like is not nearly as many people are reading this stuff as the Cradle books. It makes sense in retrospect because they were hooked on that series, not necessarily the author. But I'm disappointed, and I'm holding out a lot of hope that the author sticks to this series and has the plan that they've executed and go and bang out all these books. But what I worry is that if these book sales don't rocket up, that he's going to end up tanking the series far earlier than normal, or earlier than he planned. I don't think there's like a stated plan on how long, but he'll just say, yeah, you know what, it's actually a 4-book series when he might have intended it to be like 8. And then be like, oh, let's keep going in the Cradle series and do the story that is going to come after Cradle, which is very obviously teed up that he is very clearly going to be doing after this. So my guess he's going to do that sooner rather than later, but I really hope that we can continue on. So before we go on to the specifics of what makes this book amazing, let's first talk about the sponsor of this video. So have you ever thought, why in the world is my wireless bill so dang high? What are you paying all that money for? Speed, coverage, data, access to 5G, unlimited talk and text, mobile hotspots? Well, Mint Mobile, who I am partnering with on this video, offers all of these features for as low as $15 per month. They're built on the nation's largest 5G network and keep costs low because they sell direct to you online and cut out the retail stores and salespeople. Why would you pay more than you have to for the exact same network? Go to trymintmobile.com/fantasybook, which is also linked in the description, to get a premium wireless for $15 a month. And switching your plan will only take 15 minutes. I have literally switched my plan months ago, and my only complaint is that I didn't do it sooner and saved a ton of money. Switching to Mint's super easy. Thanks to digital eSIM cards, which most phones now have, you can sign up and activate immediately right on your phone from the comfort of your home. If your phone doesn't have an eSIM, Mint will ship you one for free. Big Wireless wants you to think that they're the only option. Do not be duped. Go to trymintmobile.com/fantasybook, also linked in the description, and stop paying more than you have to for your phone plan. And now through the end of January, new customers can get any new plan for just $15 per month when they purchase 3 months or more. And that includes the unlimited plan, which is normally $30 per month. All right, so now back to the book. Let's go into all the different aspects to this book and why I loved it. So let's start out with what I always start out with, and it's the world building. I feel like the world building here is good, although I often struggle with space books in terms of world building because it all feels like the same thing. You know, when you're not spending a lot of time in the planets, when you're spending a lot of time in a spaceship, although there was time in planets, but it just didn't feel memorable to me. And I feel like that's not the author's fault. I just feel like it's the nature of spaceborne sci-fi. And that's very much what this is. I mean, this book series in general is about this character who is, in the first few pages, so I'm not ruining anything. In this world, you can be a wizard. There's not a ton of them, but you can be a wizard and you can have one specialty. Well, he went through this incredibly expensive procedure by his father, who is one of the richest people in the galaxy or universe, to imprint on him 7 different lives. So he's lived out these iterations of his life, and he retains all the memories of them. And he's in each of those lives, he's specialized in a certain magic. So whereas everyone can have, not everyone, but whereas magicians can have one magic specialty, he has 7. So he is 7 times more powerful than the next powerful wizard. So he comes out of the gate just super, super overpowered. And he decides that he's going to split off from his father's company and do his own rogue adventuring. And he decides to go and capture the Last Horizon, this mythical spaceship that's super, super powered. And he's going through getting that and realizing that I have to get a crew, and the ship needs me to have specific roles in the crew to make the ship up to its power. Enter this book, The Engineer. And as indicated, he needs to recruit the engineer. And it's basically the engineer's story. And, but yeah, it's the world here. You're hopping to a couple different planets, but it just feels very samey to me. But I can't really hold it against it. The magic here, or the fantasy elements. So, you know, I keep saying it's a sci-fi book, but we've got a magician who literally has a wand in one hand and a laser beam in the other. If that doesn't scream sci-fantasy, I don't know what does. But you know, there is definitely an emphasis on magic here. It feels like I'm reading Cradle in space in a lot of ways. And if you've read Cradle, you know what I'm talking about. Because the author goes in depth, and especially in these fight scenes, about very, very specifically talking about the powers that the characters have, what they're able to accomplish, the way they're able to flip it on another character. It feels like you're kind of watching an anime in literary form in space. And it's cool. Now, I'm not the biggest anime fan, but I do enjoy these aspects of it, especially in literary form. It's definitely a soft magic system. There's no explanation about where any of these magic powers come from, how they are born into the character. You're not going to get a Sanderson thing here at all by explanations. It is, you just roll with it and just smile and have a good time while you're doing it. The characters. So we got some new crew members here, 2 specifically, which was great. But the problem with this was that it also caused us to have less focus on the other ones, which was not great because specifically one of the characters, I think it's Rayon. It's Raion. It gotta be Rayon, right? He is just amazing to me. Now he is this character that is like a Power Ranger that takes himself really seriously, where he's kind of like a Captain America / Power Ranger, where he's like as good as good gets, and positive and upbeat. And even when things are down, he's coming in and just like hyping up the team. It's very, very funny. Will Wight in this Rayon character shows why he's one of the funnier fantasy writers out there right now. He just has the ability to make you smile. And while the laughs aren't just hard laugh out loud, although I had a couple, it just makes it more enjoyable. You feel like you're kind of reading this comedy background to the story, these little quips coming out. And it's not just from this Rayon character. Each of the characters have a very distinct personality. They're not the deepest characters in the world because they are, you know, it's almost a little, I don't want to say Flanderization because the series isn't long enough. But they have their personality types, and dang it, they're sticking to them. But it makes it more funny when they're entering in these little comedic backdrops because it's so symbolic of who they are as people that it's just great. The prose, again, the prose is hilarious. The way that Will Wight writes his stories, it just constantly puts a smile on your face. It's very basic stuff. I mean, this is not as far. It's pretty far away from reading something like a 𝐿𝐴 or an Erickson or something that's going to make you sit back and be like, wow, that was deep. You're not getting any of that. This is a action movie form of, you know, content in a book form. You know, you're not going to have these, you know, philosophical moments going out and watching a Transformers movie, for example. You know, you're just going to go back and sit and watch the explosions and have a smile and have a couple laughs and enjoy yourself. And that's what these are. That's ultimately what this series is, and who should appreciate it. Is if you're looking to just have a good time and turn off your brain for a little bit and just smile, then that's what this is. This is a clear winner when it comes to breaking up the pace on these big, you know, huge, chunky, deep, dark fantasy stories. Throw in one of these Last Horizon books and sit back and cool off a little bit and smile. That's what it's for. And that's where it is the champion of literary when it comes to this sort of style of book. So who do I recommend it to? Pretty much anybody. I mean, obviously there's going to be some people that don't like it. I guess I'd say who don't I recommend it to? And the one thing I'd say is if you really need some more, I'm going to say this word, but I don't mean it derogatory, but a little more highbrow in your writing, look elsewhere, because that's not what this is. But if you're looking to have a good time and have a nice break of the pace from what you normally read, if you like things like Cradle, if you like progression fantasy stories, although this is not necessarily a progression fantasy because the characters already start up here, progression you start down here and just you're starting up top. But yeah, if you love it, this is an action movie in book format. And if you're looking for that, which I think you should, because who doesn't like to have a good time? Then check this out. You deserve it, and Will Wight deserves your money and some more motivation to keep going with the series. So that's it for me. Thank you so much for watching this review, and as always, happy reading to you. Thanks again to all my patrons, with a special shout out to my Ascendant tier and Librarian tier patrons: Anna G, CJ, Doust, Darren, Gregory, Jonathan, Nathan T, Nev's Book Channel, 𝗿𝗏𝗄𝐿, Ron Reich, Russell, Ryan L, Sydney Baker, Tay C, Tahir, Anna, Andra, Blair, Brock, Evan, Fanixan, Harry B, Joe, Cat Mick, Michael Sugarman, Philippe, Sky, TW57, Wacky, and Zion. Thanks for sticking to the end of this video, and if you want to watch some more content from my channel, click over here and I've got some good videos for you. Thanks so much.